And a very good afternoon, Phuket. I hope you're having a great day. Nick Anthony here with Going Green coming up in just a moment. In today's show, Going Green number 80, we're looking at why every nation must switch to sustainable growth. We look at the Sustainable Business Awards yesterday in London. We discuss waste management and recycling specifically here on Phuket. After today's visit by the Governor to Kamala this morning, looking at the Kamala Green Club and the recycling centres have been put up, and a dedication from him to roll out green clubs with us around the island. Very, very good news. Yesterday we met with Freeland from Bangkok and have initiated a campaign to ban shark's fin on menus across the province. Likewise, the Governor was there, and at the end of that presentation, the Governor said that this deserves to be across all of Phuket, and indeed Phuket needs to be the first province in Thailand to go fin-free. Very good news. We'll be discussing whale and dolphin protection and other international green news. Do stay tuned. Nick Anthony back shortly with Going Green. You're listening to Live 89.5. And we have also a new system called Simian. So bear with me today as I learn a new approach. And a very good afternoon, Phuket. Nick Anthony here with Going Green, show number 80. Thanks for bearing with us today. We have a new system in place this week on the computer. And it's taking a little bit of work, but here we are. I hope you're having a great Saturday afternoon. Indeed, I've had a busy week, a great week indeed. Yesterday we had an event at Outrigger, supported by about 45 people, including most of the big hotels, with the Governor of Phuket announcing shark fin-free hotels on Phuket. It was such an overwhelming response that the Governor indeed announced that his plans were now to take this to the entire island, that Phuket should be the first fin-free province in Thailand. A great event, a great effort, and I'll be talking more in the second hour of today's show about that and indeed who has signed up. Also with the Governor this morning, he came down to Kamala Beach with the environmental group NevNet, and also its environmental parties from within the government, including the Environment Office, Regional 5, and the gentleman from the incinerator, as well as a number of people from Patong Municipality. And they were in Kamala to inspect and to talk about recycling and generally waste management, applauding the efforts of the Kamala Orbiter, NevNet, and local NGO Seek, who've come together to make Kamala a cleaner place. They've got a clean beach schedule in place. Next beach cleaning will take place Tuesday at 10 a.m. in front of Andara. That's on Kamala Beach at 10 a.m. There'll be a group cleaning the beach. And then the Governor went on to commend particularly the Green Club structure that's been set up in Kamala, and would like to support the growth of the Green Clubs across all of Phuket. For those regular listeners, we've indeed been building those Green Clubs for the last 4 years, and we now have around 10 Green Clubs around the West Coast that are either being formed or in formation, and by the end of this year we will indeed have the entire West Coast covered, which means next year, 2014, should be the first year that Phuket has permanent, full-time beach cleaners for the entire period from March through till November or early December. So very, very good news. We really are blessed that the Governor is so interested in the environment. I've had the pleasure of working with 4 different governors over the last 5 years, and I must say each one continues to surprise us on the positive side. Of course, this existing Governor Maitri, was the Governor of Trang beforehand, which is down towards the Malaysian border. So he truly understands Phang Nga Bay, the issues of water pollution, the issues of tourism, and the issues of sustainable business. Talking of sustainable business, there's a very good article in today's Reuters website suggesting that every nation must switch to sustainable growth. The pressing need to limit the damage from climate change means that all countries must start running their economies in a way that shares the world's resources more fairly. Addressing climate change requires addressing the unsustainable consumption and production patterns of rich countries, writes Amina Mohammed, who's a special advisor to the UN Secretary General on post-2015 development planning. For example, while energy is wasted in many places, there are 1.3 billion people without access to electricity, she noted, and food waste, of course, is indeed another huge problem. The discussion asked whether a new global development framework being crafted to succeed the Millennium Development Goals, the MDGs, when they expire in 2015, can drive action to tackle climate change. The recent report from the high-level HLP on the post-2015 development agenda, led by the presidents of Liberia and Indonesia and the British Prime Minister, also identified an urgent need for developed countries to reimagine their growth models. They must lead the world towards solutions to climate change by creating and adopting low-carbon and other sustainable development technologies and passing them on to others. Otherwise, further strains on food, water, and energy supplies and increases in global carbon emissions will be inevitable. Stay tuned. I'll be back with more on that in just a moment. This is Nick Anthony. You're listening to Going Green Show. And a very good afternoon. Welcome back to Going Green, show number 80 this afternoon. I've been talking about a online debate that was hosted by Thomson Reuters Foundation and Care International yesterday in London. And they're specifically talking about how every nation must switch to sustainable growth. Well, Mary Robinson, who's the former president of Ireland and head of the Mary Robinson Foundation for Climate Justice, told the debate on Thursday that the new development goals must be universal, applying to all nations. No country has reached true sustainable development, so every country has to adopt new approaches for a post-2015 world. Ruth Fuller, who's co-chair of the Beyond 2015 group for NGOs and International Development Policy Advisor at the WWF, argued that the HLP report does not go far enough. The welcome messages on sustainable consumption and production are at odds with a prominence placed on growth as the solution to poverty, and the report fails to address high-impact, high-consumption lifestyles and the issue of redistribution of wealth and resources. Fuller proposed targets for consumption and production that are relevant to richer countries, including on efficiency, waste, low carbon, and corporate reporting. There was general agreement among debate participants that bringing about seismic shifts in the global political economy would be no easy task. Tackling the fossil fuel industry means tackling a huge international consortia with huge resources and power. Powerful forces have been tackled before in fighting apartheid, fighting slavery, and targeting the tobacco industry. This is the most critical battle of all, and therefore we need a broad constituency to ensure we succeed. That's from Mary Robinson, the former president of Ireland. Efforts are being made, including by Robinson's Foundation, to bring the voices of those worst affected by climate change, including smallholder farmers and children, into decision-making circles. We need to engage young people, women, indigenous communities, the private sector, academia, trade unions, everyone, Robinson emphasized. We need climate action to catch fire. We need it to be a genuine movement. To make this happen, many debate participants highlighted the need for more education on climate change issues, particularly in schools, universities, and beyond. It's critical to ensure that we educate people at the country level and bring the urgency of the crisis to their attention. Without empowering communities with the requisite knowledge, it will be difficult to create that popular demand for action. Weak understanding of how extreme weather and other climate stresses worsen poverty is revealed in the MY World Survey, in which more than 640,000 people from 194 countries have chosen the most important of 16 priorities for a better world. Of these, action on climate change is languishing, surprisingly, in last place. Robinson said people often don't separate out the causes of their hardships. To those who live on the front line of poverty, climate change and development are the same issues. To respond to their needs, the international processes have to be more coherent and respond to the interconnected nature of the issues that make people poor and make people vulnerable. As we design the future of development, low carbon and climate resilient solutions need to be center stage. She proposes building stronger alliances that will scale up climate finance, create jobs, and deliver sustainable energy systems on a massive scale. It's time to accelerate progress and create on-the-ground impact. 2015 is a crunch year for those working on climate and development because it's also the deadline for a new global deal to tackle climate change, although this won't take effect until 2020, and the next international plan to boost disaster risk reduction. By the end of 2015, we need a robust, fair climate agreement to keep us below 2 degrees of temperature rise, above pre-industrial standards, and we need a post-2015 development agenda with sustainable development goals that work fairly for all countries. Kit Vaughan, who's a director of CARE International's Poverty, Environment and Climate Change Network, called for a much stronger focus on making sure that governments and others also actually meet the promises they make. This is Nick Anthony. Good afternoon. Welcome back to Going Green, show number 80 today. We're talking about changing sustainability on the planet and indeed how now it's got to a crisis situation and needs to move quickly. Well, on the light of this debate that took place on Thursday, I thought I'd follow that with a discussion on sustainable business and indeed celebrating sustainable business. In London on Friday night yesterday, there was a Responsible Business Awards. And those awards are held really to celebrate responsible businesses. And people say, why? Surely responsible is something companies should try to do anyway, without the need for further recognition. I've also talked about it a few times on this show, where we've had some hotels that are really only interested in CSR for the photo opportunities and not for the good they're doing to the community or the broad campaign, such as bringing those good practices right throughout all of the island. Well, in the UK, there are a few good reasons why they like to celebrate responsible business. Firstly, it's a journey, it's not a destination, and some companies have been on that journey for a long time. However, others are just starting out. All can benefit from inspiring examples of good practice, particularly through award schemes that are not based around sectors, which allow businesses to learn from companies that they may not be coming into contact with on a daily basis. And then there's the chance to communicate to the wider public. People tend to be pretty cynical about businesses' desire and capacity to be a good force for good in society, and they have a host of bad examples in their headlines to back up their skepticism. So those of us who believe business can deliver positive change to our communities, our environment, and our society as a whole, need those companies who are willing to stand up and say, actually, in this area of our work, we're doing a pretty damn good job. So, what do this year's Responsible Business Awards tell us about the state of responsible business in 2013? Firstly, they show that despite continued economic woes, companies remain deeply committed to having a positive impact on the community and the wider environment. This year's winners are improving the employment prospects of hundreds of thousands of young people at a time when youth unemployment is worryingly high. Large players in the UK like Dairy Crest and Heineken are supporting startups, enterprise and local industry, injecting vital investment and support into sectors where small businesses are struggling, such as farming and hospitality. Companies are helping to create a more sustainable world by engaging with their customers and building sustainability into their product lines. For example, B&Q's customers only buy 100% sustainable timber, because that's the only kind they stock. B&Q has also started delisting products that aren't compatible with the sustainability goals, such as patio heaters. The 2013 Responsible Business of the Year went to Jaguar Land Rover, who demonstrated its impact across all of these areas. It's invested 2.75 billion euros in new technologies, including engine efficiency, lightweight materials that mean vehicles need less power, and hybrid vehicles, reducing tailpipe emissions and delivering more sustainable products. Its school and work-based activities have enabled 2 million young people to improve their skills and learn more about engineering and technical careers. More than 200,000 young people from 50 schools have participated in its Inspiring Tomorrow's Engineers program. And in 2011-2012, it increased its business with UK suppliers, focusing particularly on businesses local to JLR manufacturing sites. As the company establishes manufacturing sites in growth markets, it aims to source at least 40% of components locally, fostering local enterprise while reducing costs and environmental impacts resulting from transportation. SMEs are the lifeblood of our communities, and they're the key to economic growth. So it's particularly heartening to see how smaller businesses are demonstrating that corporate responsibility isn't solely the preserve of large corporates. Lakehouse, who's the winner of the Santander Responsible Small Business of the Year award, is a good example. It provides construction and maintenance services in London and the South East. Over the past year, it's invested more than £600,000 in new apprenticeships and trainee schemes, as well as $350,000 in community projects. The company's work has helped to recruit and retain staff and win new business, including contracts with homeless charity Thames Reach. Then there's the Gen 2 Group, the Education Award winner, through its partnership with Academy 360, an independent academy for pupils aged 4 to 16. The Housing and Social Care Group has invested £1 million in a school which serves one of the most deprived neighbourhoods in the country. It's helped to improve the employability of almost 1,000 young people, and in 2012, 93% of students gained 5 or more GCSEs, 4 times the best result of the 2 local schools that the Academy replaced. Very good news. Many of these stories sum up the core principle of how responsible business is evolving. Companies increasingly see these activities as a central part of their business. This is how the responsible business movement can genuinely transform how companies work and make their money. Stay tuned. This is Nick Anthony. Listen to Going Green, show number 80.
Phuket's Live 89.5.
Nick Anthony, back on with Going Green, show number 80. Thanks for listening this afternoon. Having a great day. And indeed, we have had a fantastic week. As I've been talking about this afternoon, we've had a couple of good meetings yesterday with Shark Fin Free Thailand, looking to promote shark fin free restaurants and hotels on the island with about 45 participants. And we had a meeting this morning in Kamala with the governor, who came down to the community and took a look at the recycling stations that have been set up. 2 new recycling centres were donated to the community, and it's now a model for waste management here on Phuket. The world is indeed urbanising rapidly, and the amount of municipal solid waste generated by the globe's cities is growing even faster. Some countries already have a handle on the issue. In Japan, for example, it's established policy for waste to be collected separately at the source. And existing infrastructure and communities contribute to an effective waste management system that includes a recycling rate of over 20%. In Norway, waste is treated like a commodity and actually imported from neighbouring countries to be incinerated and generate energy that is used for things like heating. Scotland has a zero waste policy, probably one of the best on the planet, and that's a model that here on Phuket we've largely been using as a blueprint to enable stronger waste management here on Phuket. Such policies and mechanisms indeed allow affluent societies like these to maintain sustainable approaches to waste. And while citizens contribute by sorting waste at the source, other activities in the process of treating or recycling waste are left to third parties, specialized companies, or government agencies. In contrast are some efforts, such as 2 in Indonesian communities, where public infrastructure is lacking. They're looking to initiatives in which applied research is addressing waste management issues with community involvement under a decentralized approach. One good example is in the village of Sukanan, which is close to Yogyakarta, where without any government support, an independent model of waste management was implemented. The participants of the 2012 ProsperNet Young Researchers School visited the site to learn more about this initiative, as shown in a video that's attached to the article. You can take a look at all of the stories we're talking about today on myseek.org. Click through to today's radio show, and you'll find a full transcript of all of the articles, including the video that's attached to this particular article. You can also follow me on Twitter at IndigoNick. Well, the school took a look at this program and indeed were particularly impressed. And they become winners of the Green Talent Competition and have got an award from the German Federal Ministry of Education for introducing local sustainability in what is a very challenging environment. Here on Phuket, where we still have no centralized recycling, there is mostly, we call them pickers, that go into the bins and go into your garbage bags and take out the items that have value, whether they be metal cans, glass bottles, or packaging. They are now getting much smarter about localizing some of the use of those products. And in today's meeting with the governor, where he was super impressed with what's happening in Kamala, it still belies the issue that currently today here in Phuket, we're in a waste crisis. I met at the Kamala event this morning the head of the Phuket incinerator, and we have seen daily volumes spiking now above 800 tons per day. It was 650 tons 3 years ago and is now 800 tons per day. There is currently only largely unregulated picking of treasure from the trash, recycling. However, given that now the landfill in Phuket town is full and the incinerator is running at full capacity, there is a discussion to actually truck garbage from Phuket up to Phang Nga province and set up a new landfill operation over the bridge. Of course, more transportation, more landfill, more leaching into the water table, and generally not a great idea. What Phuket still needs is exactly what's happened here in Indonesia, is strong curbside recycling, a change in process for all residents on Phuket to treat waste as treasure, treat trash as treasure, and indeed learn how to compost and reduce particularly organic waste. Organic waste is probably in the region of 40% here on Phuket. So simply large-scale composting, large-scale recycling, and better awareness could reduce our own waste stream by as much as 70%. Stay tuned. This is Nick Anthony. You're on the Going Green show number 80. We all love the movie Finding Nemo. All kids love Nemo. Tourists love Nemo. And without Nemo, what do we have? We have an empty ocean. There's a movie just released, and you can find it on theblackfish.org, called Losing Nemo. And indeed, the three tagline headlines from this movie is that firstly, that 90% of all large fish have disappeared since the 1950s. The amount of large predatory fish in the world's ocean today is only about 10% of what the population levels were before large-scale industrial fishing techniques were introduced in the 1950s. Second fact, 40% of sea life caught is discarded as waste. It's estimated that 38 million tons of sea life is caught annually and known as bycatch. It's discarded as waste and represents approximately 40% of the estimated global annual catch. And the third fact, they believe, is that the oceans will be empty by 2048. Loss of ocean biodiversity is accelerating, with 29% of seafood species humans consume already crashed. If overfishing continues, in 35 years, there will be little or no seafood available as fish populations and ecosystems are under increased threat. Losing Nemo, well, you would never would have imagined it, but indeed that is now being called for. Oceans to be empty by 2048. Well, here on Phuket, the last couple of days, we've done our own bit to try to support the oceans and try to particularly support the reduction in the use of shark's fin in Thailand. Shark's fin, of course, globally is a massive problem. And here in Thailand, there's been a movement already for 10 years, which is now just starting to really take hold. And on Friday, kindly sponsored by Outrigger Resorts, we had a meeting promoting shark's fin-free restaurants and hotels on Phuket. It's called the Blue List, and is an organization that's been set up through Freeland and Fin Free Thailand. We were fortunate to have three members of the group down from Bangkok, thanks to Steve, Kunpre and Nancy from WWF, who came down and gave a very interesting talk to the room. And indeed, we had about 45 groups sign up to be fin-free here on Phuket. The governor came along, gave the introduction, listened to the talks, saw the video, and has specifically said that he would like to see this movement expanded on Phuket, for it to be inclusive of all restaurants in Phuket town and across the island, and indeed making Phuket the first fin-free province in Thailand. It would send a strong message to other provinces and other restaurateurs. It will send a strong message to our tourists that Phuket does care, that Phuket has an interest in the marine environment, and we will do whatever it takes to try to support those animals. Many hotels are taking shark's fin off their menus out of concern for the endangered shark populations threatened by overfishing. They should be commended for this important action to protect sharks and the marine environment, said Fin-Free Thailand spokesperson Kun Prayer. Featuring most of the main hotels now on Phuket, including Anantara, Banyan Tree, Everson, JW Marriott. We've indeed got others such as Six Senses, Trisara, Paressa, Swiss Hotel. We've seen support across all of the Laguna resorts, not just Dusit, but also Laguna Beach. We've seen Zana Beach, Outrigger, and Alamanda all sign up. And we're expecting over the next month to sign up virtually every major hotel here on Phuket. So it's a great first step. Now, a few people have said, why are you just focusing on these big hotels? Because they don't serve shark's fin anyway. Well, given that today's tourists are approximately 12% mainland Chinese, if we have fin-free on menus, in the lobby, as you check in, as part of the education process of coming to Phuket, then that will also help to send a stronger message back to China to reduce and indeed stop its shark's fin restaurants. The government has announced that they will stop all government employees going to restaurants that do serve shark's fin. That's a huge incentive for China. However, China, Vietnam, and indeed here in Thailand still has a large number of high-so or wealthy people that think it's cool to eat shark's fin. That's changing, and I'm glad that Phuket is a really strong part of that and promoting it here in Thailand. Also, whilst we're talking about the oceans, in 65 days the dolphin slaughter starts again in Taiji. The Sea Shepherd organization is keeping the pressure on the Japanese government. Sea Shepherd had a tough week this week. They lost their charitable status in Australia, which means they're going to have to pay increase in taxation. Will be more expensive for them to maintain that organization. So if there's any rich people out there that are looking for something to do with some money, Sea Shepherd is always looking for donations. And they've done a great job at promoting the conservation of whales and dolphins. Also, speaking of whales, last Saturday's show I gave an update on Australia's Attorney General, who was travelling to The Hague to make a case for Australia and New Zealand to stop the Japanese government from whaling. The Japanese program is known as JAPA 2, which has a self-awarded quota up to 935 minke whales, 50 fin whales, and 50 humpbacks that can be killed per year and used for, in inverted commas, scientific purposes. Japanese whalers have taken more than 10,000 whales under the treaty's scientific permit clause, including 18 fin whales, but are yet to take any humpbacks. Japan called its expert, a Norwegian called Lars Wallø, to the court. However, in a big surprise, he told the court that he did not like the inclusion of fin and humpback whales in the whaling program. He confirmed that a founding father of the Global Whaling Treaty believed that if any whales were to be killed for scientific purposes, the number should be fewer than 10. Professor Wallø is Norway's foremost scientific expert on whaling, and he was called in specifically to defend the program, which he said was definitely scientific research. However, under cross-examination by Australia's Solicitor General, Justin Gleeson, Professor Wallø conceded that he had difficulties with the quotas. The reason is, and that is one of the, as I state here, weaknesses of the JAPA 2 documents, is that I do not really know how they have calculated the sample sizes. I consider the proposal of fin whale is not very well conceived because the main part of the fin whale populations are outside the area of Japa and further to the north. Humpbacks are considered as a sacred animal, and they should also not be including. The point of Australia has produced no evidence of bad faith, says Professor Lowe. It seems to regard the very fact that Australia and Japan are in profound disagreement on this matter as evidence of bad faith. There we are, Australia pushing very hard to stop the Japanese from hunting whales in the Arctic Ocean. And that's about it on the whaling and the dolphin front. For any of you out there listening that didn't catch the Blue List details, you can indeed go to the Phuket News this week. There'll be an article about that Friday event, and there'll be an article in next week's the Phuket News paper. So good news, Thailand. Keep it up, and let's hope Phuket is indeed the first province to go fin-free. Welcome back to the Going Green Show, show number 80 this afternoon, and thanks for listening. I do hope you've enjoyed the show. We have a relatively quiet week ahead in terms of events and things going on. Tuesday morning, there's a beach cleanup down in Kamala in front of the Andara Beach Club. That's down by the Tsunami Memorial. So on Tuesday morning, if you're feeling inspired and come down and give us a hand, pick up some trash. It's always welcomed. The last few days has seen, with this big storm coming through, a massive amount of fresh garbage back on the beaches. I was down on Bang Tao yesterday on the north end in Layan, and indeed it was a blanket of plastic and garbage across the beach, across the high tide line. It seems like with the storms, a lot more trash coming out of the villages, getting washed in through the klongs into the ocean, and then with the wind getting blown back up on the beaches. So it seems like a large amount of household trash. I also noticed in Bang Tao a significant line of brown sludge. Again, with heavy rains, many sewers and many hotspots around the island in terms of pollution get flooded, ends up getting washed into the Klong and also out into the ocean. So do take care out there. Message from the governor this morning was please do take care in the oceans. There will continue to be heavy currents and big waves for the next few days. Beaches are open, but swim between the flags, and do keep an eye out for lifeguards. And if you're at any risk or any concern, just swim directly in front of where the lifeguards are. Another message from the governor is to continue to make Phuket a safe place, and that requires more helmet wearing. There are a number of road checks across the island the last couple of days in trying to enforce helmet awareness, and safety indeed has to be a paramount aspect of Phuket society. So do expect further clampdown on helmet wearing, and if you're riding a bike, put your helmet on. Okay, first steps here on Phuket, if we're going to make a difference, is of course we all have to be aware. We have to open up our eyes, have to be prepared to change, have to be prepared to try different things. Think about your current actions. Refuse single-use plastic bags, straws and polystyrene. Reduce your waste. Reduce energy use. Reuse what you can, including composting, and recycle as much of what's left as is possible. Be responsible, not just to Phuket, but be responsible to our planet. And lastly, find your voice. Get out, join Facebook, join Twitter, get involved in the conversation, win the conversation, tell others, get other people inspired. It's going to take a communication boom or fire, as was just mentioned earlier in the show, to get Phuket mobilized at all aspects of society. And judging from the turnout this morning in Kamala, from all aspects of Thai society, with the support of the governor, it's really great to see individuals and communities tackling the waste problem. Our world is at a fork in the road. It's at a crossroads, and it's for you to decide. The loss of the enormous contribution of fossil fuels means that the total amount of energy available to humanity by the end of this century may be less than 1/5 of the amount we use now, and indeed less than 1/6 of the amount that we will use at our energy peak a decade from now. The advance of science has enabled us to measure our impact upon the planet with increasing precision. So why are we ignoring all the science? Will our intelligence, in the end, count for nothing? Are we destined, like the elephants, tigers, and rhinos, for extinction? Are we to become the ultimate victim of our own success? And if so, when the last human falls centuries or millennia hence, will there be anyone there to hear it? Survival or extinction, do seek for a better world. Again, you can follow today's radio show on myseek.org. Click across to the radio link, and I do hope you all have a fantastic week, and do get on the beaches and help us a little bit in keeping them clean and picking up the trash. Do stay tuned over the weekend. As always, the Phuket News Live 89.5 has a great weekend lineup for you. Coming up next at 5 p.m. will be the best of breakfast with Sam and Kirsty. Dance anthems from 7 till 10 by Steve, and then we've got Saturday Night Fever from 10 till 12. Tomorrow, Sunday, non-stop music until 12 o'clock, from 12 a.m., until 10 a.m., and then we have What's On at the Weekend. That'll be 10 till 12. Weekend brunch from 12 till 3. I believe Jason's still out, so Nick will be on tomorrow afternoon. And then we have some mellow moments with Andy Saunders from 4 till 6. The Sunday Night Chill from 6 till 9. Fantastic show of very relaxed music and non-stop music taking us through to Monday morning. Have a great weekend. Do be safe out there, whether you're riding a bike, driving your car, or indeed swimming in the ocean. Safety first. Nick Anthony signing out for Going Green, show number 80.